Okay, I'm just waiting now for Michelle to send the request so we can, we are set with the technical part.
I did.
Yeah. Perfect.
Hi, Mahret. How are you?
Hi, Michelle. I'm a bit excited because this is my first time hosting an Instagram live talk.
Oh my God, you're going to do well. You're going to do fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. And I was thinking that it is nearly 7 now. We can kind of start.
I have my roasted chicken in the oven, so I'm good.
Okay, but that's a good...
I have to think about dinner when it comes in, or the hungry lions. Must think about those.
Ah, okay, but that's good, just in between, like the cooking time, to have a quick Instagram live talk.
Yeah, I have to, because I have to be multitasking. As women, we must be multitasking. You can have a career, you can have a life, but you have kids, you have a husband. So we are still doing the laundry, putting a chicken in the oven, doing a live Instagram, sending an email, all the above.
Exactly. Okay, perfect. Now it's 7. So I was thinking that first of all, I would like to introduce this whole series, because like the Angewandte talk, we came up with the idea out of several reasons. And one reason was, of course, like Corona, that we couldn't do like all the program we had planned. I was planning to have a panel talk at the museum, which can't take place the way we wanted it to.
Yes.
And all the guiding tours, this stuff is like really slowly coming up now, because we figured out some technical solutions to make this possible for everyone to be safe. But the other part, the other reason for this series also are the current political events and situations. So because with the whole Black Lives Matter protest and demonstrations after what happened to George Floyd in the US, really brought up some like a huge wave of kind of solidarity also in a lot of art institutions. And they were posting, like on this Blackout Tuesday, were posting this black square out of solidarity, and got a lot of critique out of that as well, because people were started asking, so why are you posting this solidarity thing now? What do you do normally for representation and diversity in your daily business? So this is also a reason why we as a museum didn't post this, because it didn't feel like really right to do it. But with like former exhibitions, we kind of started with this process of rethinking and relearning. And like your exhibition now at the museum is also like one part of this whole process. So I was thinking it may be important to talk about this and to contextualize this, and also explain the different layers within the exhibition. And you are my first guest today in this whole series. In the end, I will give a quick peek into who I'm going to talk to next, because this is going to be a whole series running up until end of August.
Oh, wonderful.
So
would it be every day at the same time, or would it be
every week, like once a week with a tiny summer break, but like until end of August, which was the initial running time of the exhibition, but it is going to be longer now. So because like until like 1st of November. So there will be a lot of possibilities to go and see the exhibition.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, so to all of you, we have like 28, 27 guests now. So to all of you who haven't seen the exhibition yet, there is still the chance to do so. And
yes,
yeah,
it's quite interesting.
I would say let's start. And I would love to. Sorry.
No, I think it's great that the exhibition has been extended, because then a lot of people that was texting me the last couple of days, I'm coming in July, I'm coming, because they were afraid to miss it. And so now some people have a bit of a relief that they can come in September, which is quite good.
Exactly, which is really good. And yeah, my first question is like a pretty simple question. It would be like, how are you today, Michelle? How are you? How's life for you right now?
Oh, well, actually, I'm doing quite good. I think I froze. It might freeze a little bit.
Yeah, you froze, but I can still hear you
now. And then I'll freeze, and then we both freeze. Okay, so do you hear me now? Great. I'm doing quite well.
Yes, now I hear
you. Right. Do you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, York just turned 18 yesterday. He graduating. Actually, has been post. So on Thursday, the school will do a small ceremony. Only 2 parents are allowed, or 2 persons of representation are allowed. So which means me and Mike will go to the ceremony. Unfortunately, the grandparents won't be able to come, and my son won't be able to come because of the current crisis. So he's in a good mood. He's already been partying. He's allowed to drink the beer now. It's actually phenomenal.
Exactly. 18 now.
He's 18, so he's allowed to drink a little bit. And so, I mean, he hasn't been home, actually. He only comes, takes a shower, and then he changed. So, but everything's really, really good. So kids are great. I'm great. Exhibition is going very well.
Now you're frozen. I don't know if this is my connection, but I didn't use the Wi-Fi. So now you're not frozen anymore, but I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Huh. Should I just do you want to re-enter maybe? Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Because I see you perfectly, but I can't hear you. There's no sound. Maybe we just invite you again. I just kick you out and then you send another request. Okay, so now we start again. Okay. Now.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay,
again.
now I can hear you.
This is wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Because I'm not.
Yeah, I think sometimes it freezes. You just have to send.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
You know what? I might have to go to airplane mode. We're fine. Right. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I hope now it's stable. I hear you.
Okay, great.
So, okay, let's quickly continue before it freezes again. So, what I said initially, first of all, happy birthday to York, and I'm really happy that you are feeling all right, because you know these are very like challenging times in a way, but for me it has the sense of something positive in a way as well, you know, because so many things are like breaking apart, and now there's a lot of change and a lot of possibilities, a lot of challenge. So I feel like always in this kind of roller coaster thing, you know, there's something happening which is like absolutely awful, but at the same time there's a weird chance, you know, the possibility to create something new out of it. And I was listening to a talk yesterday you had with Adam, like for the
very emotional in that talk.
yeah, but I really like that. And maybe for the visitors, a short explanation who Adam is. Adam Katzending, he's a photographer, and he is one of the photographers that is kind of like accompanying Michelle in this whole process, like being the persona in Paris during Fashion Week, because he took many photographs of her. There are also photographs in the exhibition here in Frankfurt. And they were talking about everything. Yeah, you said like it was super emotional.
But also representation. We were talking about representation in style, and representation in fashion, representation, because you have to understand there's a policy of street style, because I really was wearing looks that's not shop the look. So for me to get the sort of like exposure, it was strictly a lot based on the photographers. So the photographers were the one that were shooting it, and they're the one who sent it to the editors. And in some cases, it could happen, and it happened, that certain pictures may not want to be featured because of many things, not just because I'm a Black girl, it's because the brand that I'm wearing is not a brand that is shop the look in one way. So that's also another part of the policy of street style. Is street style really what it's supposed to be, or is it a strategy of marketing, and have those who are quite wearing their own clothes like me, or giving the clothes? So the layers. Then of course, you know, there was also an editor comment, and who wrote a letter, and it was published that there was not enough Black girls being featured in street style as well, because then they don't feature as many Black girls as white girls being featured, or other nationality, because they're not being edited when they do the final editing, that it was not making the final edit. So then that representation as well was also quite unfair, and that as well. So there's a lot of layers we talked about, and then it went from something on to something on. But basically, Adam was is a very important photographer, because he started with me at the beginning, and then like first day on until last Fashion Week. So I'm quite happy that we chose pictures in the exhibition, because I wanted to also include everybody in the exhibition. If I had the choice, it would be full of everyone at the picture. Yeah, because I also want to include everyone.
We tried,
but I think I want to include everyone in the conversation. You know what I mean? Because I think we all make part of this, you know, as a whole. So there's no division for me and whatsoever. So so I really appreciate the photographers. And when he posted that he wanted live talk, I definitely volunteered immediately, because I thought, wow, he is part of what I'm actually experiencing now. And that was quite important.
You're talking about conversation. I think that is super important, that we talk about things, and there are so many possibilities and channels now to talk about things. And from your perspective, because you are like a super experienced in this, as you just said, that are like not enough like Black girls featured in a street style photography. What would you say? What's the reason for that from your experience?
Right. Okay. Now?
Okay, now I hear you better. Okay. So
great. We have to look at the market. right. So we have to look at the advertising. We have to look at the pages of the magazines. We have to look at the commercials. We have to look at the whole fashion to begin with. And we have to look not just Black, everyone who falls underneath the, the layers of non-white models. So which means that Indian, Chinese now become more and more in the conversation because of economic system. So you have to look at all these layers. And when you talk about not enough Black girls, it's because, first of all, not a lot of tickets are giving out to that means each magazine, you have buyers, you have press, then you have press from the magazines, you have press from all sorts of different type of press. And then, so everyone has a role to participate in this fashion presentation. So if you have an invite to go to the presentation, then of course you're participating, but it's not open to everyone, but it's open to the people within the industry. And you have to all look at the within the industry, how many Black editors do we actually have?
Exactly.
And how many Black buyers or shop owners and keepers and all these things. So, and when you're giving a ticket, most likely if you're working for a magazine, we froze again. I think we froze again.
Yeah, but I just a picture. I can hear you perfectly fine.
The invite. Wait again. When we look at the invite, they're giving per shop owners or buyers. It's not really that much. So it might be 4 maximum, or it could be 2. It depends on the size of the show, and sometimes it might just be 1. That's very reduced by itself. So to have a diversity of so many people coming at the same time, we have to look at also the position of everybody within the industry. So if they have a position who work as editors or buyers, and so in the case of my case, I was not an editor. I started out sneak into the shows. That's very clear. Most people must understand
but because you have your own story, how you
I have my own story
the system.
Which is actually interesting because I have my own story, and that story is quite interesting because I started as going to fashion and modeling, right? So I had a passion for it, and I thought I could model. Very clear, very obvious choice or decision every girl most likely want to do when you start watching and buying. I was a compulsive buyer of fashion magazines. I was collecting images. I still have them in my atelier. I got rid of half, and I'm still bringing some more. And so, it's not just fashion. I collect also architecture and cooking books. So I'm just compulsive image collector. So I can't remember a fashion shoot that it happened in so and so years because I've studied them, and I wanted to be part of this language. I wanted to be part of this industry. So I decided I could be a model, right? Like everybody else, right? And but then not as I had a very quick awakening that it was I didn't have the height. So which means that you need to be minimum 5'10", 5'9". The taller you are, the better. Then you have to have a certain structure. You have to have 34, right? 34, exactly. 34, 36. No, 36. No, that's too high. 34.
Yeah.
Right.
34. Yeah. Less even. So,
and then the hip size be, and I remember very clearly because my hips had to be 94 centimeters because during tape. And you had to have this 94 centimeter around your hips measurement, be able to fit the sample clothes that they would put out on the runway. Mind you, I'm a Black girl and a 94 centimeter.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll be up to so that's already no.
Yeah, but yeah.
Right. You don't fit the measurements that is needed for a model that size to fit the clothing that they would present on the runway. Right. And these are all sample sizes. So when we see the beautiful Black girls doing amazingly well, they have these figures, right?
Exactly.
And they're divine happiness. Every time I see them in Paris, I'm screaming. I'm just like, oh my God, give me your body. When I was modeling, because I go very far. And I'm so in awe because I was like, wow, they have the body I always wanted to have. So it's also an issue for me because I also never had the body I wanted to have, right? Because I wanted to be a model.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop me. I went to modeling
Not really.
anyway. And exactly. So when I went from fashion to modeling, I stopped modeling. I did it for quite some time, very long, maybe 15 years or so. Loved it, learned a lot, made great friends, travel, got the knowledge I needed to have. And then I met my husband, who's now, but it was my boyfriend then when I was modeling. And then I decided that I was going to slowly step away from it because I had no longer the energy to struggle with it and struggle with my body, struggle with trying to fit, trying having the looks. I'm never going to grow 2 centimeters anymore. I'm never going to have the 94 hips that is required to get all the bookings and to do the runway shows and to be able to fit in. So then I thought, okay, then I'll give that up and I start enjoying fashion from the other side. And that means buying fashion. So then, mind you, now I've moved to Germany, got married, and I have kids. Right. So that body also changed.
Yeah.
So, when I was trying to keep down, now has expanded, which is even more brilliant because then what you try to control, you can't control it anyway, nature has a way to take this toll on you. So then, but then I was watching fashion on my computer. This is way before phones. And then buying the fashion magazine, I was saying, waiting 10 days for the American Vogue to hit.
Yeah, I know.
Vogue. I have all the Vogue, and then I have all the W's. I have everything that was, you name it, all the purples. And because I was waiting and constantly going to the magazine shop. That was my favorite shop because that's where I was collecting my images. And if I didn't buy the magazine, I would spend hours. I developed a friendship with the woman at the shop, at the kiosk.
What kind of shop? Did you have like a really good shop in Cologne, or was it?
Yes, we do have actually a very good shop.
Okay, that's good.
The train station, it's phenomenal. The train station, it's like a library of magazine.
Yeah.
Love. And then my Polish kiosk lady, which is actually Brit, I made her bring magazines like Vogue. She has ID. She has another magazine. She had Dazed and Confused. So I kept saying, you need to bring this. You need to bring that. You need to bring. And then since they come to the train station, so she started the magazine as well to my local kiosk. So I tend to go there because I can spend hours and it's quite private and I love it. And I have a small conversation with her and also, because my German is not that great. I don't know what kind of conversation we do have, but anyway.
But it's like fashion language is kind of international and universal.
So I was sitting watching fashion through my computer and watching the page of the magazine. And I wanted to go back so badly. And I did not know how. And then, so when my husband got the lucky opportunity to do Go magazine, besides he was doing also Authority to See, then he's done so many other magazine interview. And I was watching, my girlfriend then, I have not met then, but I met later. And there was always this editor, which is a great girl called Charlotte Monroe, who was also the editor of Mirage magazine, and she was a Black girl, right? And there was always like a talk about the Black editor of Mirage magazine, and I thought, oh wow, she's great, love her. So I begged my husband, can you not send an email to Mirage, because then you can ask Charlotte and Chloe or Catherine, who were the editor then, if I could join them for fashion. And so that was my introduction. And when they said yes, and I could join them, so they were requesting ticket for me, which is actually really brilliant. So I started going with them the first season, and there were some of them I didn't get requested. Like I said, they only gave 2 tickets for certain shows, and sometimes it was 3 tickets, or sometimes it was 4 tickets. So it means when I didn't get a ticket, I was using my girlfriend Charlotte's ticket or Chloe's ticket to get in the shows. I had a standing, loved it. because I could see the clothes. I didn't care. I just want to see the clothes experience. And once I got the dose of it, I was like, I'm going back every season.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where my editor was like, Michelle, we can't sneak you in anymore because you're obviously noticeable, because I was wearing my clothes. And then she goes, you need to do something for the magazine. I was like, oh, I'll do anything to be an editor. And so they gave me the chance to do some projects for them, and then I would supercompose them with artwork that I've seen. So I would film mind you, I have the worst standing ticket ever. So I would sneak next to the photographers, trying to get as great angle as possible, because when you don't sit front row, second row, you might as well don't see anything, because everybody's filming with their phone and heads and so to make a long story short, so I was filming it and I was coming back to the agency and reworked it and superimpose it with art and then send it there, and then they would load in the website. And that's
it's frozen again. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Okay, let's just quickly start. Okay, waiting for Michelle to come back. Yes. Hello.
sorry. Oh my God. Can you hear me now?
Okay, so I don't know. This is the technique, but my wife, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Just.
Yeah, I do now.
Okay, perfect.
I'm so sorry. I've told my kids, all my kids, don't call me between 7 and 8. And what do? They call me.
I see. Okay, because like
Okay, can you hear me
told
now?
everyone to not use the internet, so I need like the full internet, so there won't be.
Oh my God! I specifically told them, don't call me between 7 and 8. And I know what they're calling for. Is there any food? That's what they're calling me for.
But there is food. They should listen to your Instagram live, so they would know that there is like food in the oven right now.
Oh my God! I specifically mentioned, please. But it's gonna come back.
Okay.
So
yeah. So, but when did actually Comme des Garçons came into your life? Because you were talking about this whole body issues you were having, and
yes,
that's where it kind of like comes together, right? Can you tell that? I know the story, but
yeah. So funny enough that like I said, I lived in New York. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear
because
you.
my screen is frozen. Okay, great. My screen is frozen. So I lived in New York prior to moving to Germany and going to Paris and modeling and now becoming a mom. I was very much interested in fashion, and so I was already buying designers, sort of like Viogi, and then a little bit of other designer. We had, Christian Dior. I remember. Then we had. My fashion was basically either you buy something you save a lot of money for, which is once in a while, and then you go thrift shop.
Yeah.
And so when I could afford to buy the designers I wanted to wear or buy, I would try to go and find it in the thrift shop, because in the thrift shop you think you find the designer that you've seen in the shop.
Yeah.
It was great because then you would start making stuff. You Brooklyn, and there used to be these huge warehouses. You get like a bag and you throw as many things as you want, and then they weight it, and you paid by like $20 for like, I don't know, 5 kilos of clothes. And hopefully that you would get something amazing and you recreate stuff. So I was either doing that experiment or trying to save money as much as I can to buy a piece. And Comme came into my life in '92 because I saved, I waited, and then I was modeling again, as I said, and I had got a beauty campaign for Maybelline, which was great because then at the time there was not so many representation, but of course they always need one, you know, aspect of everybody in the campaign. Exactly. I was one. And then when I got my my paycheck, I went to Come and I spent my first piece, which is an exhibition from 1992. And that piece for me was the beginning of going again back and forth to Come, always see what they had in the shop. And then 1998, when I moved to Cologne, you know, I didn't have the same access I had in New York, but there's a shop in Cologne that carries as well, Comme des Garçons. So I was also able to go into the shop here, not as extensive as the New York shop, but at least getting the pieces that the buyer bought to the Cologne shop. Exactly. And I found my 1997 collection, which I didn't buy in New York because by then my husband was there, which was my boyfriend then. He didn't want to go shopping and he wanted to see gallery. And I always says, I never forgive you for not letting me buy this piece. And then he said, but there's a shop in Cologne that might have it. So when I came to Cologne, I bought it in Cologne, which was actually amazing. So I'm very happy for the coincidence. But 92 is really the beginning point. I think the tipping point happened in 2012, where I decided on that moment on, I would buy every season, if I can afford it, a runway piece, because it's important to understand by then, when I've experienced the show in Paris in 2012, which I wasn't doing before, and even when I was modeling, I was not getting the opportunity to do any Come show in Paris, not whatsoever. So let's make that very clear. And then when I went to Paris, after I begged my husband to beg the editors so I could join them, I saw my very first Come show in 2012. And when I saw that collection, which is the fall 2000, the 2D collection, it's almost like something just hit me, and it was like, okay, and then I made the decision that every season I would buy a piece if I could afford it. And I will save for every season because I know that the pieces are coming. So I even made the decision not to buy so many other designers because I knew that I would save a certain amount of money if I wanted to have a piece that I would invest in piece, and then everybody else would come afterwards. Yeah.
But what is it actually that makes Comme des Garçons so special to you? What is Ray doing that really hits the nerve?
Yeah, first of all, she's a woman designer, which is very important for me. And second, what's actually even more important, because I also find myself, you know, like I say, learning to do jewelry and become a jewelry designer. I also went to Paris with the intention that I wanted not to have a street style tie to my name. I wanted to make sure that if I went to Paris, that I had something that was valuable, that even if you Google me, that you see that, oh, she's not just a girl who wears clothes, but I also had something important to say in the fashion world. So I started my own company prior to that, when I started a collection called Macaque, and I presented it at the O32C in 2012. So I was completely convinced that I had to have something that had a voice, that I was not just a girl wearing clothes. I made it very clear from the very beginning that this was going to be, you know, if I didn't want to tie myself as the street style or an influencer, which I get super upset about, or say things like that, you know, because I don't only wear clothes. I do many things.
Yeah, and actually you're kind of performing it, because this is that's always a tiny performance you're giving.
And so I wanted to tie myself that I want to do something for myself that was also significant So I started to do the jury line. So went to Paris with that conviction, never promoted it, which is very, very clear. I didn't do it. And there was no cases that I wore my bag or wore my jewelry, only when I felt it was relevant and obvious. Yeah, darling, I'm live Instagram, please. Yeah. And so I made it very clear that that if someone wanted to do some research, what does Michelle Elie do anyway, besides wearing Comme, that they could actually find out, oh, she actually does, you know, jewelry and bags, and they're actually quite interested. So with that conviction in mind, I knew that I had to have something tied to my belt, because what I wanted to portray as well was not someone who just flows for the sake of wearing clothes or going to Paris for the sake of going to Paris and being photographed. No. There was a vision from the beginning in '92. I chose to wear Comme because those are the brand I believe in. What I want to go back to was she's a woman. And the reason I make it very, very important that she's also, she was very inspiring for me because she never learned fashion, but she mastered it. I never learned jewelry. And that gave me a huge inspiration to master it as well. So with that conviction, I was like, wow, I could also do jewelry without me being a goldsmith and go to school. All I had to do was find the craftsmanship to put my ideas. Exactly. So when she mastered, like I could master myself as well, being a designer. And she gives me so much power and so much freedom and to express myself. And I love the fact she always says, you know, first of all, her clothes is not for everybody, right? And also the second thing is like, you know, you don't need to dress to please your husband or your boyfriend and all. I love that. I love that because I felt that a lot of people dress to please others. I did not dress to please others. I wanted to please myself first, and then if someone get pleasure from looking at it, great. If they have conversation with it, great. But that conversation is open. I wanted to have an invisible interaction, whether I realize it or not. So that's why some of the pieces are performing pieces, because then I transform a lot into a lot of pieces where I can't not use my hand. I'm completely, may not be able to get into a car. I have to think about where I'm going. It could be quite heavy. How long will I have it? And so I have a lot of challenges. And those challenges are important for me because I like to challenge myself as well, and not just, you know, wearing clothes as well. So I think that plays an important role. And it's true that some pieces that you perform, you take the act of performing, because the minute you step out of your boundaries, or you step out, which is not anymore fashion week, which is acceptable to have and celebrate it. But what happened when you wear it in the regular world, which is not, it's a different conversation. If you go to New York or London or Paris, that is, and if I'm in the fashion, you know, month or fashion event or art, that is most likely, it's a conversation that is like, oh, it's interesting. Most people will know it's a Comme piece or not. So that conversation it's quite neutral. But when it happens when I'm in the regular world wearing the pieces, that creates a different conversation. So, and that for me is also an interesting aspect, because people think that you're actually not even wearing clothes. They sometimes think I even make the clothes, which is even more funny.
Wow, yeah, true. If they don't don't know the context or where it comes from,
Which okay, I think is great, because then it's a curiosity. I appreciate when somebody asks me, excuse me, what are you wearing? Then I can explain it. I don't appreciate when some people laugh. That's something else. Because if you laugh, that means you don't understand it, so you ridicule it for you to understand it, to make it so. I'd rather that you're curious enough to say, what are you wearing? And I take time to explain a little bit. But when I see the conversation not going very far, then I just leave it. At some point, far.
But this whole performing part brings us actually to the exhibition, because what you are doing actually fits perfectly into what I'm always interested in as a creator. So when I got the possibility to show your collection and to start working with you on the exhibition, it was like, for me, it was like a gift, you know, it was like just laid out. I was like, okay, I don't need to be convinced, because this is actually exactly what I'm interested in my work as a curator at the Museum Angewandte Kunst. For like the official position is fashion, body and performance. So, you know, all of this comes together perfectly fine. And then I have like this other background being like, kind of like political active as well, and engaged in this called Initiative for Black People Living in Germany. So there's always this political aspect in my work as well, like from my background, which kind of works into my work in the museum as well. So on so many levels. So I didn't need to be like really convinced. So it was obvious for me that I wanted to work with you. And because it has like this super performative aspect, which I love, because I don't like fashion exhibitions that much, where you only have like a mannequin and then you have a piece of cloth. And I'm not sure that people really understand, you know, the piece, because they need the context. And I think fashion is also a lot about context, conversation, being like in contact to your surroundings. And as you just said, that it is completely different if you are in a fashion context. People kind of understand more easily. And it is not a conversation than going to the supermarket in Cologne, of course. But it's also interesting, you know, there's something else happening. And I'm always interested in these things that are like happen between like the wearer and the piece of clothing, and of course the viewer. And because this is actually what for me makes it fashion in a way. Otherwise it's like beautiful design and craftsmanship, whatever, but you know, like this exciting performative aspect of fashion, that's what I find super interesting, and that it's really obvious in how you collect and how you, because it's not a classical collection, you know, there are people who buy stuff and then they just like put it somewhere safely and just show it. You are wearing the pieces, and you are also like choosing the pieces because you want to wear them. And this is really,
and the great thing about choosing the pieces, which most people must understand, you never try on to choose it to begin with. So you're almost choosing with your intuition. So the pieces are shown on the runway, and then they end up on the mannequin in the showroom, and those pieces were all the runway. No one are allowed to try, not even a model can't show it for you. So you're guessing. It's like almost like Russian roulette. And I love this because it's an excitement. I always say, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to wear the piece, if the piece is going to wear me.
Exactly.
So I don't know when I'm choosing the piece. First of all, I want to wear it. Then I said, when I get it, I hope it doesn't wear me. I want to come through the piece in itself. So that's an important part, because I never know what I'm going to get. I place an order, I get it 6 months later, but when I open the box, which it comes in, that's an excitement, because you've seen it on the runway in movement, and now you're going to get, so you have no idea what fabric it is, or you can see it on the runway, yes, but even then you're not allowed to touch it, because it's like, you know, she just gave birth and this is her brand new baby, so don't touch
don't touch the baby.
Which I actually totally respect, because it takes a lot to come out and do a presentation like that to the world, knowing very well the critics it will get, and then the reaction it will get, you know. And then of course that is her vision, and she puts it out season after season, and it gets stronger and stronger. When you think you know, you actually don't know. And I love that about her, because I think, oh, she's gonna do something. I'm always guessing what she's gonna do, but then it's completely the opposite of what I've guessed. And it's again, I'm like, oh my God, she's done it again, you know. And so this excitement, it's almost like waiting for Christmas to happen, or waiting for, like, you know, the surprise box and finding a treasure. And then when you see the clothes, I always know from the runway which piece I'm gonna get, because my heartbeat goes really fast on the piece. And I go, oh, that's the piece. And then Then I will go in the showroom. Sometimes I will have a confrontation because then I've seen so many pieces I want to have. I'm like, oh my God, I can't decide. Then I look at my bank statement. I'm like, okay, I need to decide on one piece.
Limits in a way.
And if I could, I would take 4 or 5. And then sometimes I make a decision. I'm like, oh, I should have taken the other one. And because at that moment, and then you have exactly maybe 10 days to decide before they close all the books, which is once you place your order, it's done. It goes back to Tokyo.
Yeah.
So that's it. You cannot say, change my mind. And there are no sizes, they're also like some pieces, it's small, medium, and large. So that is like, does it fit me? Doesn't fit me. So it may not even fit you. So the large pieces, you're going to fit in anyway. But then the pieces are a little bit more straight. You're like, oh my God, I have bumps. I hope it fits. I hope it drops. So all these things come into play. And then once you make that decision, I've already imagined myself wearing the piece until the piece comes.
And did you ever have, because there's
this
question showing up, what happens if it doesn't fit or you don't like it? Did that ever happen to you?
No, it has never happened. It has never happened. And it's because, again, the pieces I've chosen, I simultaneously know I'm going to wear it. And if it doesn't fit, I'm going to lose weight to wear it.
Okay.
I'm going to go on a diet.
So like a super pragmatic approach.
Extreme diet.
So if it doesn't fit, just make it fit. Yeah.
I've done that for other dresses besides Comme, where I went like, okay, I need to lose weight. I buy a piece just to lose that weight, to get to the goal that I need to get and make sure. And I put this dress very present where I can see it every day to remind me, don't eat that piece of bread, don't have that extra glass of wine, don't. And then, keep me motivated. So I have done that, which is quite great. I've done it with my girlfriend as well, where we would buy something like that doesn't fit, and then we tend to shrink to the size of the dress that would make it fit.
That's
but in the case of it's motivation. Yeah. I think it's almost like whatever you want, you will work for it to get it. And I think this is a decision I've made, and I think within that decision, I've worked extensively to get the piece. I mean, I'll be honest with you, some pieces were quite expensive, and I had to still crunch my teeth and like, all right, I'll just drink water for the whole week.
Yeah.
And so the pieces always fit, and always fit. And the pieces I've chosen because I want to wear it, so I choose the pieces that I actually want to wear and feel beautiful in it and challenge myself. And there are some pieces in the exhibition I have not worn yet as well. So which means that every dress has its own time. It's on season. So even if I buy it now and decide not to wear it, I might decide to wear a couple of years from now, because the time I bought it, I was feeling in one particular mood. And then when I got it, I might not feel the mood to wear it now. And then when I decide to wear it, it's the right moment to wear it. So it's always depends on my intuition, my feelings, my emotion. So I'm very in tune with the clothes that I have in that exhibition. I call them my girls because they're all my girls. I talk to them, they talk to me. They've given me so much power, so much energy, and so much of a voice. I mean, and itself, and it's giving me the exhibition. I mean, to begin with, I can't say a lot about so many other designers that can give you an entire exhibition, and that's a powerful message. And I like the fact that she always says, you don't dress, she created a perfume and she says the perfume is for you, not to attract the others.
Exactly.
She created dress.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
So you dress for yourself. So this idea of finding yourself, I had an interview recently, and the interviewer says, don't you get lost in your clothes? I was like, no, obviously I find myself in my clothes, because I rediscover my challenges, my strength, my weaknesses, my power, my energy, my confrontation, my self-confidence. Every time I wear a piece, I rediscover every time the same thing, what I've just described to you, by just wearing a dress. I could not do the same thing if I wear sweatpants or sweatshirt all day long. I could not do it if I wear like, a very clingy, sexy dress. I mean, I would sense that one message,
Exactly.
Here I am.
Yes.
So, So the language I get from the clothes and the challenge it brings me, and every level, good or bad, or it's just, I'm always in conversation with myself. But I think this is a brilliant, and what better way you can interact yourself, because the things you do when you first wake up in the morning, you know, you always have a piece of clothing on. Even if you go to bed, you have a piece of clothing on. You wake up, you put a piece of clothing on. You take a shower, then you put you constantly dress, and you're constantly singing a signal to your brain, your soul, and to the viewer out there how you want to be perceived. So my signal is different.
Your signal, there are some questions coming in here I find quite interesting. There's one asking, Anna's asking, do you wear these dresses in Germany? She can hardly imagine how people look at you.
Yes, I do. Not as often as Paris, but you know what? I think, why not? I always says before, I want to wear Comme during the day and my Valentino couture at night. And I could also go to the supermarket. I think if you saw someone like me walking around the street, you can only say, wow, what a breath of fresh air. A bird of paradise. The conversation would be different, you know? But in the olden days, they would throw a stone at you. She's a witch. Yeah. I even take that as well. But I think, why not? Yeah. Why not?
You definitely. I really see you doing this, and actually, you do it. Probably not.
Yeah, because it's important for me, because I don't want the clothes to just hang on my closet. I don't collect. First of all, I don't buy to collect. I buy to wear. That's very, very important. The clothes became a collection because I have more and more pieces, and it has a certain language. And I do think all the pieces in the museum says one language. It actually says Michelle.
Yeah, that's actually why we chose. That's also a reason why we chose like the doors, the way we chose them, to make clear on the one hand that it is you wearing the pieces.
Yeah, and this is genial.
And to make this more important.
Mahret, please talk about that.
Yeah. there's so much. I don't know, we could like talk for another hour, I think, because it's like, so you have so many stories to tell, and
there's so many layers. Yes.
So, and of course we chose the doors for several reasons. Like one reason, as I just said, that it is made clear that this exhibition is about you wearing the pieces and what is happening there. And then of course another super important part also is like representation of the black body in the museum space, which is until today a very sensitive topic.
Very rare, Mahret. Almost non-existent.
Exactly, and only, you know, and not as a subject, you know, not as an acting person or an acting woman.
No, it's as a natural thing.
Yeah, you have like a model or like some person in the background in the paintings. So, and you know, I studied art history, and so I learned how to describe like every single detail piece. Every flower has their meaning, and people, you know, we talked about in paintings, there was like a black person in the painting. We were talking more about the tiny little blue flower in the background and the meaning behind it. And the black person, like obviously in the image, even was like invisible. So this is.
Well, also the images that you had of the black people in the painting, you must be very clear, they were not a representation of the culture. It was always in the type either a servant or someone as a background. And so if you look at the very classical painting, you know, she's actually getting this woman dressed, or she's, you know, in her regular clothes, and then you have this, you know, very nudity, you know, modified, you know, beautiful, so whatever Venus woman painted for you, and then you have the black woman or the black man. So those representations are completely misrepresented, to be honest. Exactly. So, and then if you look at the history of museum, there are very little artists, black painters who are actually in the museum, done by black painters. So not even talking about in the paintings, but paintings itself or artists itself. So there's very little bit of it. So when the museum made the decision to take the black mannequin, I was like, Yes.
Of course.
Yes. And
Yeah.
yes. And that was in itself a very powerful statement, because you could have chosen a regular mannequin, which actually an abstract mannequin, but you didn't have to say. Again, you would have the mannequin on the clothing on the mannequin, and then you would have the story behind it. So it didn't have the same emotion. I mean, when you did the pre-opening and I was getting like little tiny glimpse of the mannequin that you were actually giving me, because you were so afraid I was going to post it. Because I was not keeping it. I was like sitting here under lockdown. I was like, send me some pictures.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
You sent me the very first picture with the mannequin. I was like, oh my God. It has such an emotional feel. It felt like I almost jumped into the phone and was with you, because it generates such an emotion. Not because it was me, because I felt there was, there's so much emotion in those mannequins, even though they're mannequins. But then the idea of the face and the color, and I'm like, brilliant, brilliant. So it generates automatically an emotion.
Exactly.
Right. You see it on photograph or on pictures on the net in person. And the fact that you have all 50 with the same face, you know, with the same ponytail, that's brilliant, because then you identify, there is this girl behind the clothes. And then when you read, so that was a genius move from the museum to actually make the mannequin and not be a regular mannequin like any other mannequin, and also not to have a headless mannequin.
Of course.
We wanted to have a face mannequin.
It was so important.
Yeah, and so I think when we go back to Black Lives Matters now, the idea of not having representation in the art world and fashion, it always depends as well with the curator and the director of the museum to choose. But again, we must be very clear. We cannot do representation because we need to include, right? We need to include it as well when it has the same quality that it needs to be at the museum at the same level as everyone else. I do not want to be in the museum because we need to have a Black girl in the museum. Right now, I'm getting a lot of requests where people are like, I always have to say, they ignore you until they cannot ignore you anymore. Out of the blue, I'm getting a lot of requests now for, Michelle, we want you to have at your exhibition, but I've sent you this 6 months ago. But now you need to include one Black girl in the conversation. So this type of email, I've actually ignored them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I don't have
time.
My
God.
I don't want you to
the time is really over,
now,
Michelle.
Okay.
But actually, we're going to talk more about this in this whole series, because it's like so important. And now I feel now that there is some kind of attention now, like, you know, for a topic that is not new, not at all. But I think at the moment people are kind of like open for this conversation. And so I think we should be having it now.
I want more than openness. I want more than openness. I want action, and I want commitment, and I want people to hold up to say what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I don't want any more, action.
Next week,
commitment.
There will be a talk
commitment.
With Yvette.
When we start seeing commitment, we're going to include everybody in the language. Then